Hello, everyone. It's Religious Fanboy here again, and welcome to Episode 3 of the Worshipping God by Watching and Talking About Anime podcast. And today is a first for our podcast, where we have a guest. It is my mentor and friend, Mike Edmondson, who is the youth minister for First Christian Church in Neoga.
Oh, hey everybody, glad I could join you today. Talk about something that I've enjoyed for a lot of my life, which is anime, and of course, for about as long, Jesus. So, not that those are equal loves. So, but very passionate about both. Excited to talk about them.
Yeah, this episode is recorded ahead of time, but when this is out, it will be posted the week in between Christmas and New Year's, which is usually a time of reflection on the past year as we prepare to enter New Year. And in spirit of that, we are going to be listing off some anime recommendations from both a couple from past years, as well as a couple that have been released in 2024, as well as discussing the Christian lessons and themes that we have seen paralleled in them. We each have a list of 4 to 5 animes, and we're going to be going back and forth, and I'm going to start off with actually one of the animes that I've been watching currently. Bit disclaimer, I have not watched episodes 12 and 13 yet, because I am currently waiting on the English dub. But my first anime of my list is Delco's Nursery. The main lesson that I saw paralleled in the show is that in order to love and show compassion to others, it requires us to pursue understanding of one another. And for us to lower our expectations so that we might be able to better serve those around us. Our Bible verse for today, for the series, is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Which says, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things." The illustration from this show is how Dino, after being rebuked by his friends, he finally chooses to relieve Theodore of the immense pressure that he's been under, and tells his son that he loves him and gives him a hug. And this also enables Theodore in the time of need to protect the younger children Uh, to give brief synopsis of this series, it is a group of vampire detectives who are trying to solve this murder mystery while also trying to balance taking care of each other's young children. And this show covers heavy topics, and the main themes from it pertain to student and mentor relationships, as well as father and child relationships. And what is your first recommendation for us, Mike?
All right, I'm gonna give you one. I've got 4 of these that are not all brand new, but they're from the past couple of years, and then I've got one that's I would say is brand new. I might do mine just a hair different than you did yours, just because that's the way my mind works. So I'm gonna give kind of a brief synopsis of the series, and then I'm gonna talk about like the Bible verse and kind of the lesson you get from it. So. The first one I have on my list is a show called Ranking of Kings. It is a show about a young boy who is a prince. He is deaf and he is mute, and it goes through like his journey as trying to become the king. And so he goes through lots of adversity because of not only his disability, but just because of the nature of being a prince and trying to become a king, and the idea of in this world all the kings are kind of fighting to try to be the best king and up on top, and so there are people that are trying to vie to beat him to become king. And so it's one of these things where it is a great anime. I really enjoyed it. It's a tearjerker. If you don't cry, you're not a person. So but it was good. The Bible verse that I have for it is James 1:12. Because this kid is just facing lots of adversity. And so here is the verse. James 1:12 says this: God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterwards they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. And so it is just all about him just continuing to go, his stick-to-itness, his perseverance throughout this show. And in the same sense as we face adversity in our lives, we have to like stick to it and keep going. And being a Christian is not all going to be wonderful all the time. There are going to be hard moments, and when we hit them, we got to keep going through them, even in those tearful, tough times. So that was my first recommendation. Ranking of Kings.
My second recommendation is the anime Wistoria, Wand and Sword. A brief overview of the show is the main character lives in a world where everyone has magical build. Pretty much everyone is skilled with magical abilities, except for the main character. But what he lacks in magical ability, he makes up for in knowledge of magic, as well as being a highly skilled swordsman. And this series is showing us how he, through his friendships as well as his support and own skills, how he is able to overcome these extreme obstacles, and the ways in which he is rewarded for the ways that he is able to overcome them. The lesson for the series is that God has given us all different gifts and skills, and God calls us to use our different skills to help overcome one another's weaknesses. And the Bible verse for this series also comes to us from the book of Corinthians. It is 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 23, which says, "In those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty." The main illustration from the series is the ways in which Will, the main character from the show, is able to use his swordman abilities, as well as the trust of his friends and teachers, in order to thrive and overcome the difficult circumstances. Like how, as the church functions not as a group of individuals, but as one body, but with many parts. And how we have to rely on each other and work together to use our strengths to overcome each other's weaknesses. And now here is Mike's second recommendation.
I'll also say I've seen this anime. I've seen all of it, and I really enjoyed it too. So I would recommend this as well. But it's not on my list, but I would say it's a good anime. I forgot to say something about Ranking of Kings, and that is, it is a very wholesome anime as far as I remember. I've only seen the first season of it, but I don't remember anything controversial in it, and I think that for the most part it would be fine for pretty much anybody to watch. So, which is not the case for all of the anime that I'll be suggesting today. So some of these might be just for like a teenage audience or up sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because some of the violence may be in it or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, my second recommendation is one that I've told we've had talks about Quentin, and that is Mob Psycho 100. I really enjoyed this anime. There's 3 seasons of it, if I remember correctly, and it is fantastic. I enjoyed it. It's got lots of action in it. It's got lots of heartful, awesome moments in it. It's one of those ones that'll be a lot of fun for you to watch. It's goofy. It's silly in some cases. It's I would say this is probably a teenager or up anime, because it might be a little scary for a young kid, some of the action in it, or some of the Esper abilities. So the synopsis, essentially, it's about an Esper or a psychic type of thing. He's got psychic powers, who is constantly struggling to keep things in control in his life. Like, he is so overpowered that, like, if he doesn't keep his power under control, he could kill someone easily with it. And so throughout the show, it is him struggling to keep this power under control, while people are trying to not only take him out or just abuse him as far as and use them for their purposes. And so it's 3 seasons of this. It's about a young guy who is kind of in over his head, so to speak. And so when I was thinking about a takeaway from it, I was thinking about the idea I lived a lot of my life as a non-Christian. And I remember when I started becoming a Christian or started hanging around in Christian culture, I felt very much compelled to try to clean my life up myself, to try to stop cussing, stop doing sinful things, to look like a Christian, to act like a Christian, to buy a big old Bible to wag around with me, or a cross necklace, or to attend all the Bible studies and all these sort of things. And even though I did not really know Jesus, I was trying my best to look like Jesus. And so I spent 6 months probably in a local church in my hometown, just trying to make myself right enough where I felt like I could become a Christian, or right enough where other Christians would accept me as one, even though I hadn't really made a commitment. And so, and it just reminds me that that's something that we cannot do. And so I felt like I had the weight of my world on my shoulders, all this burden of trying to be right all the time and do all the right things and say the right things, and it was just overwhelming. And I know that I couldn't do it. I failed miserably at it. And so it just reminded me a little bit of Mom's struggle with trying to keep things under control, and his interaction with everyone around him, not trying to hurt anybody around him, or trying to be the right type of person, not to abuse his power, all that sort of thing. And so, in the same sense as people, we can't justify ourselves by our actions. We are justified by Jesus and Jesus alone. And so, the verse that I have for it is in Matthew 11. Let me pull that up real quick, and I'll read it to you. Matthew 11. Verses 28 through 30. It says this. Then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden I give you is light." And so, the idea is just, we don't have to carry it all ourselves. We don't have to justify ourselves. Jesus is ready for us right now to make a commitment and to allow Him to take our burdens. And the burden that He puts on us is light and easy in comparison. So that's my thoughts. And my second recommendation.
I've not watched any of the anime yet, but I have read the first 6 volumes of the manga, and I also highly recommend it. My third recommendation is the anime The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic. A brief synopsis of the show is 3 high schoolers are sent to a magical world where each of them are given a different type of magical power. The main character, Ken Uzatu, is given the power of healing magic. And this series follows the 3 of them as all of them learn their new powers, and how Ken Usatu is able to become stronger due to his training and his ability to use healing magic on both those around him and himself. Our Bible verse for the series is Isaiah chapter 58, verse 11. "And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places, and make your bones strong, and you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters do not fail." The illustration from the series is how Ken Usatu, Suzune Inukami, and Kazuki Ryosen grow as people through their interactions with each other, and the other characters as they overcome the challenges of their new world has presented. And there is one disclaimer: there is bit of fan service in the show through the character Amelia's design, but that is the only disclaimer I give for this show. Aside from that, I highly recommend it. And that is my third recommendation of anime that have come out this year.
I've seen that one as well. I've watched the series and I enjoyed it as well. I agree. There's some action in it, you know. So there's a little bit of blood, that sort of thing. A couple people die in it. Not gonna say who. Don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, it's pretty wholesome for the most part. Other than there might be a character design or two where they're a little buxom or something like that. So, but all right. Well, and by the way, Mob Psycho, I've seen that a while back, so there may be an episode or two where there might be something interesting happening in the plot. I know there's a cult in it, you know, and someone does mind control stuff. I don't remember anything gross in it, but if you find something questionable, leave a comment, tell Quentin about it, tell him not to bring me back. So, anyway, I'm going to recommend one from this season, the current season that's out. I will give it a little disclaimer. I know some people are a little, I don't know if the word would say sensitive, but some people have an aversion to anything that might be considered satanic or demonic or that sort of thing. A very big trope in fantasy anime is the demon lord, you know, and they take both sides of that, you know, where you have the demon lord is the antagonist, so they're trying to defeat the demon lord, and sometimes the person who is the main character is the demon lord, and you're looking at things through the demon lord's eyes. So if that is something you're not necessarily a fan of or into, I understand. I'm still gonna make the recommendation because personally I just think it's fiction. I don't think they're trying to like glorify Satan or anything. But if it's something you're sensitive to, you might pass this one up. But I like the Demon Lord 2099. It's brand new this season. I have only seen, I think, 8 or 9 of the episodes because it's still coming out currently. But I know the first 7 I would highly recommend. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of the first arc of the anime. Episode 8 starts a new one. But the first 7 episodes I very much enjoyed. There is definitely some adult themes to this. There's people that die, there's blood, that sort of thing. So this is definitely like a teenager or up thing for the most part. It's nothing super graphic, but this isn't for small children. So Ranking of Kings, small kids can watch that no problem. This would be like a 13 up probably, sort of anime. So, but it is about a demon king, or demon lord, sorry, who was defeated in his time and is reincarnated like many thousands of years later in the year, I assume 2099 is based off the name of the show. And it is like cyberpunk type of world. So instead of being medieval, they're like highly advanced technology, probably even farther ahead than we are. They've incorporated magic into technology sort of thing. There's mechs, there's guns, there's Yakuza, there's... and so he is going through his life, his second life, so to speak, and trying to find his old subordinates because they're immortal for the most part. He was killed and destroyed, and then he reincarnated because he is immortal. In the same sense, his followers have been mostly immortal, and so it's this. The first 7 episodes are essentially about him trying to get the gang back together, trying to figure out his new life in this era. There is a bad guy in it. I won't get into any more of it, but some of his subordinates are still around, and they're very much faithful. Some of his subordinates are not around anymore. Some of his subordinates are still around, and they are not excited about him being back and have not been faithful in the least. And part of that is because of the Demon Lord is the Demon Lord. You know, he is totally focused on himself and his interests and his goals. of conquering everybody, sort of thing. That was all he lived for in his first life. He comes back to second life, and he is humbled and is trying to figure out what's next for him. And he grows in an appreciation for those who've stuck around. And it's a cool show in that sense. It's cool design-wise, it's cool action-wise, and it's cool because it has this lesson in it that I appreciate a lot. And that is essentially this. We can't just be selfish and self-centered all the time. We have to consider the people around us, especially as Christians. We can't be self-centered or selfish all the time. We have to consider our witness. We have to love other people. And so, I don't want to spoil much about it, but the idea is he comes to appreciate the people in his life around him. And so we need to consider the people around us and appreciating them, loving them, and considering how we treat them, whether we prioritize ourselves or our ambitions or our goals, or whether or not we love the people around us and try to help them with their issues and their goals. And so the verse I want to put on this is Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, which says this: "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had." So that's my third recommendation.
Yes. Another anime that thought reminded me of. I didn't put it on the list, but the anime Kawoko Boys Sing that also came out this year had a very similar lesson and theme in that. I also highly recommend that. If you exclusively watch dubs, sadly, an English dub for that show has not been produced, but I do highly recommend the English sub in that series. The next anime on my list is actually a movie. This is Haikyuu, the Dumpster Battle. This is a sports anime about a volleyball team, and the main character of it is called Hinata. He is a relatively short person, but he dreams of being a professional spiker. And the show primarily follows him. The lesson for this movie is that the accomplishments and feelings of fulfillment that God desires for us does not come despite another person, but through the growth that takes place through our relationships with God and each other. The Bible verse for today, for this movie, is Proverbs 27, verse 17, which says, "Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another." The illustration from this movie is how Kinma learned that he enjoyed playing volleyball with Hinata more than the idea of beating Hinata in volleyball. And that is my fourth recommendation.
All right. Well, my fourth is one that is super popular, or at least it was last season, if I remember right. I believe it was last season. Could have been 2 seasons ago, but anyway, it was certainly this year, and that is Frieren. So I very much loved Frieren. Bawled my eyes out a couple of the episodes. It is a great series. I would say that for the most part, it is pretty friendly as well. I don't remember a whole lot of fan service stuff. I do know there is some violence in it, and so again, it might be a teenagery up sort of anime, but it's not the highlight of that show. Since there is not a huge amount of violence. There's some, but it's not like prominent in most episodes. So, but it is about an elf who is living her life, and she goes on this journey with a group of heroes to defeat, of course, the demon lord. And we hear about that very briefly in the first episode, and then time passes by. Because she's an elf, she lives far longer than these humans that she went out with. I think there was 2 humans and a dwarf and her. And so at the end of the first episode, essentially, we find out that almost all of the people that she went on these journeys with have passed away, except for, I think, the dwarf, who's pretty long in the tooth at this point. And so she decides to take up a trip to revisit their trip to defeat the demon lord. And so they stop at all the places they stopped, and she reminisces about all these moments, and it's kind of in honor of this person who's passed away, who meant a lot to her much earlier in her life. And so it's like 27 episodes. It's a long one, but it's a good one, and it's about essentially this idea of her almost having regret because she lived her life for so many years kind of neglecting some of those relationships that meant so much to her at one point in her life. And now that they're gone, she realizes the hole they left. And so it's her kind of coming through this realization and awakening that she was better because of these people in her life, and she was better when she was with them, and the need for that sort of relationship and contact in her life. And so of course, there's all sorts of stuff going on. They're fighting different things, and there's drama and people that are running around with her experiencing things in their own lives too. So it's really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I cried a couple times in it. I would highly recommend it. But it reminded me of a verse in James chapter 4. The idea of look here, you who say tomorrow or today or tomorrow we're going to a certain town and we'll stay there a year. We will do business there and make profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It is here a little while, then it is gone. And what you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own pretentious plans, and all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. And so I think the idea is we have one life to live, and we should make the most of it. And that doesn't mean that we should say YOLO and do stupid stuff. What it should be is that we should be very intentional with our time. God has given us a certain amount of time here, and He's asked us to do a lot of different things, whether it be in the way we live our lives or the actions that we do during our lives. And so we shouldn't put off some of these things. We should make the most of our time, being fruitful, and there's that whole parable about the talents, the idea of we got to do something with what God has blessed us with. We have to be ready for Him when our time ends, and we don't have much time here, so we got to make the most of it. So that's what that was kind of what was reminding me of Frieren. So if I remember right, Quentin, you said you got 4. Do you have a 5th?
I do.
Oh, wonderful. Because I got a 5th.
My 5th recommendation, and probably my favorite show to come out this year, was the anime Windbreaker.
That's right. You told me about that, yeah. I've seen this one too. It's good. It's good. Just don't go punch people like in Windbreaker.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Making friends is always helpful, but it's also best if you don't have to do that through violence and fighting.
Although I understand, because there's people I really want to slug sometimes.
Mm-hmm. The lesson for this series is that God does not desire for us to pursue being great for the sake of achieving leadership and status. But God calls us as leaders to be servants to those we lead. Our Bible verses for this series are Mark chapter 10, verses 42 and 43. And Jesus called to them and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant." Excuse me. The illustration from the series is that as Sakura interacts with the people in his new community and the other students at Furin Academy, he accepts the responsibility to take care of those who are in need in his community, as well as learns to be willing to accept the help from those around him. That is my 5th recommendation.
Yep, it's a good one. It is very, there's lots of fighting in it.
Yeah.
So, for any younger viewers, you might watch out, parents. So, but yeah, like teenagers are probably fine. It's not like bloody, gory or anything. It's just lots of kicking and punching. So,
and also just kind of, I've not been mentioning age recommendations,
okay.
But Mike has been, and that is always helpful to know. A lot of these shows, to my knowledge, can be found on Crunchyroll. Mm-hmm. And in this past year, they've done a lot through their app updates to help people more with the maturity guidelines.
Okay. I was going to say, there might be a little bit of fan service in that show, too, if I remember right. I think that, like, that one guy that's got, like, mind control or whatever, I think he's got, like, cheerleaders or something that are, like, all over him at one point in the show. But anyway, that's besides the point, because I can assure you, I don't remember every anime thoroughly. I told Quinn about this earlier. I usually watch anime for personal enjoyment. I don't necessarily do it for ministry basis. So some of these recommendations, like I said, I'm just remembering them as like, I like that, or like I could pull that from this as far as like a Bible connotation or a lesson. So, but there might be stuff in there that might be interesting from a Christian perspective. So, like I said, if anything I suggest is, you have issues with, take it easy on Quentin, because some of these I haven't watched recently or through the lens of a minister or as a Christian. I just watched them for fun. So my recommendation, my 5th one would be probably a different one for me, but I wanted to do something a little different because I did some fantasy and action stuff, is be Bocchi the Rock. If I remember right, that's how it is pronounced. If I'm mispronouncing it, again, give Quentin grief for bringing people that don't know what they're talking about on his podcast. But Bocchi the Rock is about a young lady, a teenage girl, who is struggling with like social anxiety. She is almost mute around people and is super, super shy. And so she's trying to overcome this. She happens to be a fantastic musician, but can't get in front of people to do any of it, including just like normal, regular like people. And so the idea is we were watching this show as she and a couple of friends are performing in a couple of different clubs, atmosphere, and her trying to overcome this social anxiety. So one of the episodes, I remember she has a box over her head and is performing with a box over her head so that nobody can see her face and so that she doesn't have to see the crowd, and she's just killing it. But she is so like not wanting to be around everybody that she's like just being ridiculous by wearing a box over her head, and so she's just in the dark playing, and she doesn't get to see the fact that she's just killing it, and all these people think she's awesome, but in the same sense, she has so much fear that's the only way she'd even get herself out there. And so it's over the course of this show, she's getting more and more progressing towards getting over this anxiety and the social awkwardness and that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed this show. It's got some great music in it. It's a little different, so ladies, you might really enjoy this. I think guys can too. I enjoyed it, but it is more of like a girl type of anime. But Quentin will probably tell you like what you like. So I thought it was really good, and I would suggest it as a watch. Here's what I would use for a verse, or what a verse I thought would be good for this, especially when talking about anxiety, and that is this. And Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 says this: "Don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus." And so I do want to preface these statements, okay? I think that a normal person with normal anxiety can pray and cast their concerns and their worries on the Lord, and I think they should. But I also know that we can't necessarily pray away mental health issues. So there are people, and I've been one of those people, who have struggled with anxiety and depression and various things. And just being a person of faith doesn't mean that those things go away, because there's an element of biology to those things. We have chemical imbalances. We have lots of things that we have to work through. And so there's no shame in getting counseling. Being a person of faith, you can still get counseling, and you might still need it. And so I don't want to encourage you and say, pray and all your mental issues are going to go away. That is not the case. And some people like to say, well, it's lack of faith. I don't think that's it either. I think some things it just takes some time. Some things you got to talk out. Some things you need therapy and counseling for, and some things you need medication for, because they're physiological things. So, but for the average person who's dealing with anxiety, worries, concerns, we should be people of prayer, throwing them onto the Lord, asking God to take care of these things. But again, I don't want to say that we're going to pray or have faith enough to remove mental health issues. I don't think that's kind of the way it works. So if you need help, get help. There's no shame in it. I know I've personally been to counseling and counselors, and I get help. I've been on medication for depression, so there's nothing evil or worrisome about doing that. If you need to do it, do it. So, but if you're just having normal levels of things, that's not necessarily affecting the way you live your life on a regular basis, pray about those things, and hopefully God will take some of those concerns and worries off of your plate. So anyway, enjoyed this anime a lot. It's really cute. It's a good anime. I don't remember anything inappropriate in it, but kind of like Mob Psycho, it's been a while. So again, if there's anything inappropriate, put it on Quentin's plate.
And I feel like if we're worried about mistakes and pronunciations, I'm with the few recommendations that go with the wrong way to use healing magic, I'm pretty sure I
would have tried. Yeah, I was impressed.
Authentic Japanese names.
Yeah, I would have shortened them to 3 syllables or something, like Ryu and such. Yeah. Protagonist 1, 2, and 3 do exciting things. Boy 1, boy 2, boy 3. Yeah, girl 4. Yeah. So. Did
you know Polar Express names their characters that?
Polar Express is nightmare fuel, in my personal opinion. I think if you watch that, it is scary. But that's for another episode, possibly. I don't know.
Actually, that came out, in the time we recorded this, it came out on TikTok yesterday. Before we wrap things up, we've reflected on anime of this year and prior to this year. So we're gonna list off some shows that we are excited about in 2025. Are there some shows that you're excited for?
Why don't you start while I look over the list? Because I wasn't sure. I didn't know we were doing this. So you get to talking and I'll hop in.
I'm really excited for Soul Leveling Season 2.
Oh, I love Soul Leveling, but it's super adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for even teenagers, I don't think. There's some serious violence and heavy themes and fan service a little bit. Yeah, it's definitely an adult one. but I'm with you.
Yeah.
I loved it.
One show, it's been coming out this year, but I'm excited to hopefully watch it or at least read that arc in the manga. Oshinoko Season 2. Another thing that, if you're big into Christian anime stuff, you may or may not have known that Angel Studios recently released the first full trailer for Gabriel and the Guardians. And in that trailer, they announced that starts coming out on Angel Studios February 12th. That's super exciting. Then I'm really excited for the final season of My Hero Academia. Season 7 it didn't make my list, but it was another one of the highlights of this past year for me as far as anime goes.
Okay. All right. I at least have two, and these are both sequels, and they're coming out in January. But the first one would be the sequel called, oh man, I keep, like, the internet is not doing so great up here where we're filming this. I'm trying to find the English. Okay, this is what it is. The Apothecary Diary, Season 2. I watched Season 1, and I thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed it. Not one I've recommended on here for that purpose, but I'm looking forward to it. It comes out in January, the second season of it, and it's kind of a love story dash, like, Chinese, like, political drama sort of thing. I really enjoyed it. And then the other one, which is pretty similar, except instead of being Chinese, I believe it's Japanese historical romance type drama sort of thing, and that is, again, if I can get the English translation of it up, so that way I don't have to try to say it in Japanese, because it would ruin my day. My Happy Marriage Season 2 is I'm looking forward to. I enjoyed both of those. This is about a young lady who is essentially has no prospects marriage-wise, and is set up with a guy who seems like a really cold fish and kind of a jerk, and has a reputation of being those things. And then she finds out that he is actually pretty warm-hearted and a great guy, and they fall in love. And so they're going through some of this drama that becomes from him being like a bigwig in the army sort of thing. And so the second season of it is coming out. And I really enjoyed the first season, so I'd be excited to see the second season for that. And so those are both ones that are coming out just the next couple of weeks. Of course, Windbreaker's got a season 2 coming out.
Oh,
in
I
April.
Didn't know that.
It does, yeah. Yeah, Windbreaker does, and that'll be good. Ought to be interesting. And let's see.
I don't know if they've announced trailer, but Go Go Loser Ranger Season 2 has been...
Okay, I need to finish Season 1.
A few months ago.
Because I watched the first couple of episodes of that, and I didn't get to see the rest of it.
I've watched all of Season 1, and then I've been reading the manga for manga ministry stuff.
Wisteria.
Really enjoyed both. Wisteria's getting
second season 2? In July.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much fun with sequels. I'm excited.
Oh, dude, I parry everything.
What is
It's a ridiculous show. It is ridiculous. It's literally about a guy that can, like, parry as far as, like, block something with his sword. Anything. So, anyway, there's a joke about that I'll tell you later, but the reality is like, it's just this over-the-top stupid anime. But I enjoyed it because it just kept getting more and more outrageous. Like, I parried an Elder Dragon. I parried an Empire. I parried... It's just goofy. So, it's got a second season. And I'm going, I don't know what they're going to do with the second season of it. But I'm in. I'll watch it. I'm also a sucker for fantasy anime and like isekai anime. I know they're kind of tired tropes in the genre, but it's kind of what got me into anime in a big way, and it's one that I really still enjoy. So all the fantasy and isekai anime I always look forward to in a season.
I've not watched much. I think the two that I've watched and would recommend.
Delico's Nursery's got a second season in July.
Oh, okay. That is. I'm glad I've not planned upload schedule for next year. Actually, I still want to cover Delco's Nursery, so I should probably get on that since season 2 comes out in July.
Yeah.
That's actually what I ran into when I was like, oh, I'm going to start covering Spy X Family. And then season 2 was, like, season 1 was 24 episodes. Also, like, Batman Ninja gets a second movie in, like, a month?
I don't know. I don't think I saw the first one, to be honest with you. Some of those, the idea sounds intriguing, but I know, like, some of the, like the one where it was like the samurai Batman or whatever. I don't know if I felt like the execution was as great as the concept was. I was like, oh, that could be fun, and then you watch it and you're kind of like, this is solely weird and kind of strange.
Also, if you want to give us some anime recommendations, feel free to recommend anime to us in the comments, both of stuff that we missed this year that you think we should cover, as well as stuff that you're personally excited about this year. Like, I've not had time to research some of the new shows, but I'm really excited for sequels that are coming up. So definitely put them in the comments. Would love to check them out. And if there are Christian lessons and themes, definitely would love to cover them. And with that being said, is there anything that you'd like to add, Will?
Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. So have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. May God be with you, and see you next time. Bye.